Good evening and welcome to tonight's show from DJNTV, Disc Jockey News TV. Tonight's show is brought to you by Electra Voice, DJ Event Planner, DJ Trivia, Odyssey Innovative Designs and Cases, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and the DJNTV Insiders.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
It's time for Tuesday Night Live Chat with Brian S. Red and John Young.
Good evening, everybody. It's me. John is indisposed right now. He'll be back, though. But tonight, we are going to discuss the whole YouTube video thing and how you might be able to get involved, because you can. It's free. I did it. So can you. But while we're waiting for John, there's something else I wanted to talk about. And that was music knowledge. I made a Facebook post the other day. I think it was yesterday, actually. Maybe the day before. I don't remember. But anyway, I said, hey, name a great song with strings in it. And people struggled. It was kind of funny that they did, because there are strings in a lot of pop songs. And some people didn't know what I meant by strings. Some people were thinking strings has to be in the title, or it has to be a classical song, or it has to be maybe something with an instrument with strings on it. Well, yeah, guitar technically has strings, but we talk about strings, we're talking about violins and cellos and bass violins and oboes and things like that. So a little different. I think an oboe. Is an oboe a string instrument? I think, no, maybe it's a woodwind instrument. So scratch the oboe part. Something that you play with a bow would be a string. And it could be a single violin, it could be a trio, a quartet, it could be a full-on 12-piece or a full-on orchestra. It could be a lot of things. But yeah, people struggle with that, and that was weird, because when you listen to a lot of pop songs, maybe not today, but if you go back to the classics, there's a lot of strings in there. And it's something that I hear, and it was a bit surprising to me that a lot of other people didn't hear them. Jimmy Spin mentions Papa Don't Preach. Yeah, that's got strings in it. That's real obvious at the intro, though. But a lot of songs have it, and you may not realize it, because they're kind of in the background. A lot of stuff, like, I don't know, in the 70s had it. And then around 1980, when we got into, like, New Wave and things like that, we got into more of the synth kind of playing the string line, if you will. There are songs like Moments in Love by Art of Noise. And if you don't know that song, check it out. Moments in Love by Art of Noise. It was on the Quiet Storm a lot back in the day. It's a British electronic song, but it really became kind of an R&B slow jam classic too. There are strings in it, but the strings are actually played on a Fairlight synthesizer. They're sampled strings, 8-bit sampled strings, but they are strings. Are you back, or are you just hanging out?
No, I'm back. I've been listening to you.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
Okay, you're listening to me. So I'm riffing about strings here.
Yeah, no, I go keep. We'll finish this thought.
Keep riffing about strings. Okay, and then we'll get into another thing here in a minute.
Yeah.
Dust in the Wind. David mentions that song. November Rain. Yeah, there are a lot of songs with strings, but you have to listen for it, because some songs just aren't as obvious as other ones. And I was trying to save the obvious ones for the mobile DJs. I wasn't going to mention them, but I waited a full 24 hours and I had to. I'm thinking, if you don't know that Funky Town by Lips Incorporated has strings in it, you're not paying attention, mobile DJ. Same thing with Cotton Eye Joe by Redneck. In fact, damn near every country song ever written has strings in it.
You know?
There's a fiddle in there. That's a string instrument. What was the other one? Oh, We Are Family by Sister Sledge. Of course it does. That's like a Chic song almost. There are several that are just obviously songs with strings in them that I felt like a mobile DJ might know. And oddly enough, they didn't. And I just thought that was odd. And maybe that's because I'm just a music geek, John. I don't know.
I'll tell you, when you posted that, that was the first thing I was thinking. It's like, okay, there's got to be a bunch. And then what happened? Literally thought process. Thought process. Strings, songs. Well, if it was harmonica, I know somebody who does a harmonica, and there's a lot of songs that have harmonica. And then I went into a Huey phase, and I was done.
They probably have strings in Huey Lewis songs.
They might.
Here's the really interesting part about strings. And when you involve an orchestra or even a quartet in your music, the composer, like let's just say Beatles, for instance, okay, they may not actually write that music.
Mm-hmm.
What happens sometimes is an artist will make a song and then they'll send it off, literally just send it off to a composer and say, yeah, put some strings in it. Whatever you think. It's weird, but it's like, yeah, whatever. And they do, and it ends up in the track. And of course, it gets mastered and mixed in or out wherever they feel like it needs to be mixed in and out. But it happens a lot. I was watching this, I guess, interview with Paul McCartney recently, and he was talking about A Day in the Life, if you know that song.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I heard the news today. Oh boy. There's a bit in the song for, I don't know, a good 20, 30 seconds. They go, and then it goes into this like, woke up, got out of bed. There's this bit in there. And Paul was talking about how they had the orchestra there because that's how they did it then. And he said, okay, guys, this is what I want you to do. I want you to start on your lowest note and I want you to work your way to your highest note. Okay. And they were like, what are you talking about? And the composer stepped in and said, all right, guys, here's what I want you to do. And he told each individual member of the orchestra what he felt that they should be doing in the terms that a composer would use.
Sure.
And they said, oh, okay, yeah, fine. And they did exactly what Paul wanted. And Paul's like, yeah, that's what I wanted. But he didn't know how to articulate that to the orchestra. That's something a composer does. And that's interesting. So I also think it's interesting, and a lot of people don't know this, but Prince, this is the composer we think about of our modern age who was just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, wrote all this stuff. He's kind of like a funky Stevie Wonder. He wrote and composed all his own music. But what a lot of people don't know is he had a father and son composer team do all of his strings. Like all of it, like through his whole career. And they live like, I don't remember. This is kind of something that I'm not an expert on this. I just remember hearing it. They're like in Nebraska or somewhere boring, and they're just normal guys. And no, it's his father and son team. And Prince will write a song and he'll say, okay, guys, strings, thanks. And I don't know, he may have given a little keyboard line and say, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Or he might have just said, yeah, do what you do. And they did. And by the way, a lot of Prince songs have strings in them. And you may not hear them, starting with Purple Rain and going all the way up to anything that I was listening to through the 90s, I guess. And I'm sure the 2000s and 2010 stuff had it too. But strings are in everything. And it was just interesting to me that people were struggling to find a song with strings in it. It was harder for me to find a song without strings in it than it was to find strings in songs.
Sure.
And one guy posted Journey's Don't Stop Believin', which incidentally has no strings. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Close so.
Unless you kind of guitar.
Yeah, but guitar strings, but that wasn't what you were after.
It has strings on it, but it's not strings.
Yeah, it wasn't what you were looking for that conversation.
So listen, it's and it doesn't really matter. I guess not. But if we're DJs, we should probably know more about music than the average person. And it's just little teeny tiny nuances like that that you can, I guess, take into consideration even when you're building sets. Those are things that I think about, and maybe you don't notice it subconsciously, perhaps you do, and it matches up with something else. It's a common denominator between two songs in a set sometimes, and it's so minute, and it may not be obvious, but subconsciously a lot of people, oh, okay, yeah. I don't know. It's a music geek thing.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I don't know. I'm sure Huey Lewis's strings is something. I mean, I'd have to listen.
I'm just thinking, because I've obviously seen him in concert a number of times. He had, a brass section with him.
Yes.
And
you'll see horn sections a lot.
Yeah, he had the horns, and Huey on the harmonica itself, and then of course you had your standard rock and roll band. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if there's.
Well, here's something that's very interesting too. You'll have bands that will have a horn section in them. Mm-hmm. Because usually when they put horns in a song, it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's in your face. Sax is like, bam, and like Earth, Wind, and Fire has a horn section. And, of course, Chicago, I mean, famously has a horn section. Yes. Chicago is the horn section. They own the band Chicago, the horn section. But, and there are strings in Chicago songs. But there's not a string section in Chicago, if that makes sense to you. They're not part of the band. They just farm it out, because when you're talking about this kind of stuff, again, this is not always, I guess, within the musical compass of the average rock star. Mm-hmm. And a lot of rock and roll songs, like when you think of rock, and I'm talking about Van Halen and stuff like that, you don't typically hear a lot of strings. I'm sure it turns up here and there, but it's not there a lot. Punk, no. Unless it's like Sid Vicious doing My Way, which by that time he really wasn't punk anymore because he was pretty famous. Garage bands, no. You don't hear it in grunge too much. I'm sure here and there you might, but it's usually like in a well-produced pop song. And again, it's like, okay, I could kind of hear it. And then there's acts like Steely Dan who are, pretty refined.
Yeah.
They don't really use strings. I mean, I don't hear strings in their tracks.
Yeah,
but you hear it in Fleetwood Mac. You hear it in, I listed tons of them.
Yeah.
Like just hordes of songs. And some of them, you'd have to say, oh, there's strings in that? And if you listen to it, yeah, there sure are. And it doesn't always turn up right away. Sometimes it turns up in the second chorus, or the second verse, or the B section, but it's there. Just music geeking on you here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dave mentioned ELO being a big string, and I believe as a child that was probably one of my first experiences with strings on a song that I actually liked.
Yeah.
Prior to that, when you'd hear it, it'd be like that's a old person music.
And Jeff Lynne tours with a string section.
Yeah, and
I think he always has.
Just interesting how some artists kind of go that direction and they utilize that in their sound. How
you've got Jeff Lynne who does it. And in the 70s, okay, like you've got Jefferson Airplane, and then they were Jefferson Starship, and then they just became We Built the City Starship.
Yeah.
The Jefferson Starship incarnation had an electric violinist, and I don't remember his name. It was a black guy, I remember. But it was a really cool sound. So you hear it in songs like Miracles or Runaway or With Your Love. In fact, that was the first song I listed. It's a real neat sound, and it's a single violin. And this is the 70s, but it was just cool. And they toured with him, and he was part of the band. And of course, a lot of the country acts, the fiddle player is part of the band. But most of the time, they're not a part of the band, nor do they tour with the band. And a lot of those bits, the string bits, can either be sampled and played on synth, or, quite frankly, pre-recorded on click track for live.
Yeah, in this day and age,
it's like a lot of it's subliminal. It's not like in your face, but it's there.
Okay.
Yeah, everything has strings. Reggae.
Let's jump into our topic for tonight, so we can hit that.
Yeah, I've riffed long enough about strings.
So Brian, what I wanted to talk a little bit about, at Mobile Bee, one of the things that I talked to quite a few people in the hallway, because a lot of the types of learning that you and I get the most out of is that networking and learning in the hallway as we're talking to people. And that had come up time and time again, that the idea of creating an event where it was the focus in the hallway. And that took me back to when you guys first started, one of the first in Milwaukee, the event before it was Midwest DJs Live was kind of more of a YouTube DJ. It kind of bring for those who have no idea of that, how that kind of started and became something. How did, because you were involved with it early on a little bit. I
started it. Yeah, and this is what happened. So Jonathan, the DJ tutor, Alaskans, and I were partnering up. We hadn't met, but we were doing YouTube videos to compliment each other and doing replies to each other. We were kind of the DJ tutors. And I don't know, there were a few things that we did together, some projects and such, for websites or whatever, or just educational things. And we communicated a lot. We called on the phone, talked a lot, whatever. And he had the attention of Pioneer UK or Pioneer Europe. I don't remember which, but basically he talked them into sponsoring him to come to the States. So him and I could meet for the first time and debut. It was the Pioneer DJ M400 and CDJ 400s, if you remember those.
Yeah, yep.
So that was the new big piece of gear, and Pioneer wanted us to kind of turn people onto it, and So he was going to stay. I don't know, it was 10 days or whatever it was, and a lot of people were reaching out saying, "Hey, we'd love to meet up. We'd love to meet up. We'd love to meet up while you're in town. We're in Chicago. We'd love to see you." And I thought, you know what? Let's just have a party. Let's just have a thing. But let's make it cool. Let's make it a DJ tutor party. So we're going to be there with equipment. And if you have a piece of gear that you don't understand, bring it. And maybe somebody there can help you with it. We can help each other. And we'll learn things and you'll learn things. And let's just do it. This was 3 weeks before he was going to fly in, too.
So very last minute.
Scheduled it, rather.
Yeah.
And it turned into a thing. Like, we had 100 people.
Wow.
And we called it Practice and Enjoy. And ADJ sent over a light rig. And a couple other companies got involved, too. They were sending different products. And, of course, Pioneer was involved. And what we ended up doing is having these sessions. We were ultimately, I believe, we did it at 3 locations. We did it at a steakhouse, and that was for everybody underage because I had stuff set up in clubs because it was free. Another guy, he set something up for the underage kids because they were like, why can't we come? It's like, look, it's adults only. And they thought, well, let's do something for the kids too. So we did steakhouse thing in the afternoon, and then we had to pack everything up, load it in trucks, and run over to the former hot water space, which is no longer hot water. That's been sold. But I had carte blanche to the place. I can go in there and do whatever I wanted for years, 15 years. And I told him one of these Sundays, I'm going to bring 60 DJs in here. We're just going to get loud. And he's like, cool, I'll open the bar. So that's what we did. We set up this big light system and we had turntables and we had video at the time. This is 2008. That was pretty cool. We had CDJs, we had regular CD players, we had regular turntables, and there were 3 guys DJing at the same time, but they were mixing off of each other. It was really cool. A lot of the guys from Chicago showed up, the house guys, and we had guys coming in from Kansas City. We had somebody come in from Africa. It was crazy.
Wow.
The people who were coming into this little thing that we just said we were going to do. They came from all over the place. Of course, we had Europe, we had Africa, we had the States, and then the next day we had a workshop at a friend of mine's restaurant. And it was kind of one of those things where we just kind of were helping each other out with whatever it was, controllers or lighting or whatever it happened to be. If we get all our heads together, maybe we can figure this stuff out together. So that was that. And then Brian Dowdle over at ADJ, as we're doing this, He says, this is really cool. I wish Jonathan was here for another week because I'd have flown you guys out to Mobile Beat. I'm like, yeah, I've heard about that show. He said, well, you should come out. So I did. And I really felt, at the time, I felt bad because I felt like I was cannibalizing that show. I thought, my God, you can come to Vegas and get a very inexpensive hotel room and get all of these vendors under one roof.
Yeah.
And all of these DJs, and they're wasting their money coming to Milwaukee for 100 people doing what we did. I don't want to do that anymore. I feel like I'm cannibalizing the show. And Big Ron, if you know who Big Ron is,
Yep.
he kept calling me. He's like, oh, I missed it. You going to do it next year? I'm like, nope. It's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not doing it. This Mobile Beat thing is better. So we're going to do a Practice and Enjoy meetup in Vegas. I don't want to do it in Milwaukee anymore because there's, you can do this for less money. You can fly there and get a hotel and everything else for less than you can come into Milwaukee and get in a hotel. And it's bigger, it's better, everything else. I don't want to cannibalize the show. I don't want to obligate a DJ to come to my little thing when this cool thing's going on, a week later.
Yeah.
And Ron said, well, can I do it? I said, I don't care what you do. Just don't call it Practice and Enjoy because I don't want people to get confused.
Certainly, yeah.
I want them to come to Vegas for our thing. But if you want to do a thing with your people, you go right ahead. So he did. And that's when he started YouTube DJs Live. That's the story on that.
Sure. And then that ran for 3 or 4 years. And then I think they made that transition over to Midwest, or when did they change?
Yeah, they got away from the YouTube thing because YouTube was going away.
Mm-hmm.
No, YouTube's not going anywhere. Facebook will go away before YouTube goes away.
Because people love video.
Facebook is back and better than ever, or YouTube is back and better than ever. I really, and then Ron ran the show, and then other people got involved. Some of the local guys that maybe I've got some bad blood with, or we just don't mesh well. But Ron would always tell people, yeah, come to my show and meet Brian Red. It's like, wait a minute, hold on a second. I'm not your dancing monkey, And then sometimes he'd put why aren't you coming to my show? And I'm like, because I'm at Music Messe in Germany. Didn't you check your calendar before you did these dates?
Yep.
You're stepping on stuff. Stop doing that. If you want to have a good show and if you want people to come to your show and vendors to come to your show, don't step on these other shows that are happening. Pay attention to what's going on internationally because,
that's a thing. Yes.
Yeah, you can't do that. You have to pick a dead time. And there's one thing that I've learned in this business over the last however many years I've been doing this is that vendors hate doing shows. They don't like them. It's on the road. It's a lot of work. Everybody thinks they can produce a DJ conference and want you to come and pay for it. And it's just a lot of effort, really and there are places like ADJ, for instance. I mean, they've got a whole entire section and department dedicated to show production.
Yeah.
That's all they do because it happens that often. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time and effort from sales, from marketing, from them, and just, wow. So, yeah, I just kind of decided to avoid the show if I could. And I was always trying to explain to him why some of these other companies wouldn't come to his show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because they can only do so many a year. That's why, because they're already busy. And then I did have my stroke on the way home from one of them. I mean, that's how much I dislike that little show. I really don't like that show. It's like I kind of gave birth to it, but I hate it that much. I'm not really blaming the show on my stroke, but it happened. What? I don't know, 35 minutes after I left. So, okay, maybe. It might have something to do with how much I hate that show. I don't know. But I really don't like it. And there aren't really many people I know that are involved anymore. I'll go. I've gone just to say hi. Because if I don't go, I'm a bad guy because it's 3 miles from my house. So I came all the way to Milwaukee, and Brian Red would even come say hi to me. And I've told people individually, even at Mobile, well, I'm going to Midwest. Are you going to be there? I was like, I don't know. But why don't you come by? What do you mean? I'm like, just come to the house. I'm 3 miles away. It's cooler than the show. Trust me. Come to my house. My studio was bigger than their expo floor.
Yeah, maybe not quite.
No,
but you've got a much better collection of.
No, my studio is bigger than their expo floor. Absolutely. It's 12 by 22. The expo floor wasn't that big last time. It's this big. It's as big as my studio. Yeah. My studio is more fun. But yeah, a lot of little shows pop up, and I don't know. It's just sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And the shows that are done well are great. And then there are shows that aren't done so well that aren't as much fun, I guess. I don't know.
Being that, of course, the socializing and networking part is a big component, not only with what you and I experience at these shows, but when they ask, what was the biggest thing for you, that seeing friends and the networking in the hallways, always right at the top or near the top or at the top.
Right.
How do you feel that things like when we do the nights where we have a hangout and we get 20 people, doing Brady Bunch things, has that, do you think, having an effect on the people's desire to attend these things because they now can network online and they can talk to people on a semi-regular basis? Is that having an effect?
It's hard to say. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a virtual experience, but nothing beats FaceTime. And unless you've experienced it, you have no idea. And there are people who can't afford to break away from their day job or whatever to come to Vegas or Atlantic City. And there's another show that I'm hearing about that I guess I'm keynote at in November in Albany, New York. I don't know. I'm hearing about it. And I guess I'm going. I've been told I'm going. So I'm going. People still go. Oh, yeah. I don't know that we need to make this the one-stop shop for DJs for being social and looking at equipment and going to seminars like we used to, because there's a lot of information online now. You can find out about this equipment. You can see demo videos on lighting. Yeah, people like to hear speakers. That's one thing that's valuable. If the speaker manufacturers show up at the shows, they don't always. I mean, Electro Voice has a huge presence at every show that I've been to, but not every speaker company does.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a cool supplementary thing, and I do like it, but there's something about that FaceTime. It's just different, and the one-on-one, and I can't explain it. Mm-hmm. As cool as videos are, person to person's better.
Yeah. I think there's a big part, and as you were saying, if you haven't experienced it, if you've never been there and been able to talk shop with someone who has that same passion and same affliction for what we do, because half the time,
yeah,
I get a new piece of vinyl. It comes in from something that I grew up with in the 80s or what have you. And I'm all excited, and I have no one in my household is as excited as I am, of course. Because they're like, oh yeah, well, whatever. Dad's got another record that he's going to go put on his stack, and he'll play it like once a month. Yeah. And it's a great thing, kind of a thing. Other DJs, they get that.
Yeah. We need to. I feel like, and that was kind of most of the reason that I started the YouTube channel in the first place. The biggest reason I started is just because, I can't discuss this with. My mom is interested. She always is. She always has been. How was your night? What did you do? How did it go? And Blanca doesn't care. But there's somebody. I always had this in my head. There's somebody in the middle of Nebraska who just got off of his gig and he's home. His wife doesn't want to hear it. His kids don't want to hear it. He's had a great show, and he's got nobody to tell it to.
Yep.
He's got nobody who's going to relate to him. He just got to keep it to himself. So why not have a community where we can say, hey, I had a great night and this is what happened, or alternately, I had an issue and I'd really like to bounces off of you how to handle it instead of just handling it all yourself. Just to know you're not alone, almost a DJ support group.
Oh, for sure. I think that's a good way to describe
just for the lifestyle. It's not a bad lifestyle, but it's unique. And not everybody's going to be able to relate to what you do, or they'll dismiss what you do. Oh, you just play music for people.
Mm-hmm.
And your job is just fun. And believe me, I've heard it. I've heard it from Blanca. Until I started taking her own gigs, she's like, "No, you're working. I get it now."
Yeah.
I'm sorry I ever said that. It's like, okay, yeah. By the way, grab that speaker and put it in the truck.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, woman.
I'm partying so much tonight.
You're not going to get your 7-Eleven Slurpee if you don't get moving that speaker.
Playing all of my favorite songs, and it's just a fun thing. Yeah, that's it. Sometimes you have a good night, but yeah, it's cool to have that this connection with another person who gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that for a lot of folks who came to DJ Expo with us last year on that Tuesday night patio thing, I think to a point that really was able to demonstrate some of that, because there were folks there who didn't. This was really the first thing they've ever done at a DJ convention, was to come to Tuesday night with us there on the patio, and to be able to sit around and talk shop and share stories or ask questions, whatever. It's just really kind of a cool experience. And I think that building of that sense of community is as much as I love what we do online, we just can't replicate that.
Well, before I reply to that, I'm laughing at Jay Brennan. He's trying to explain Lola's theme in the room, which, by the way, is a song that I turned him on to, and now it's his favorite song. They should just change the name of that song to Jay's theme, because they don't mention anyone named Lola in the song. It could be Jay's theme as easily as it could be Lola's theme. We should just rename the song, and just, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Shapeshifters, Lola's theme. Cool track. Anyway, yeah. It's okay. So I met somebody at Midwest was it Irish Pub? Is that what we called it?
We were
the patio thing?
at the British or is it Irish Pub? The pub.
I had my first face-to-face with somebody there who I knew and knew me. And it was cool. We couldn't have had the same interaction on a Facebook message or a video chat.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool. What we talked about and the reaction we each had to each other, and yeah, just neat to do that. That face-to-face stuff is so important. It really is. And I feel like these shows need to allow time for that.
Certainly. Because
some shows that I've been to, and they vary, but you're expected to be in this one area all the time, and your time is very much managed by the show.
By the schedule of the show, yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really any time to just do what you want. You're going to listen to this guy talk, and you're going to listen to that guy talk, and this girl talk, and you're going to watch this build, and you're going to do this. That's like being in school for me, and I hate school. I like it when I can, maybe hit a class, but then maybe skip out for a class with some friends and go have lunch at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about what we talk about there. Just that free time, and maybe I'm unique that way, but
I don't think so. I think that there's more DJs who are that way than that would be the ones who want to go sit in that classroom.
Maybe
we all like to talk. We all like to, be witty. We all like to engage, and you can't engage when someone's on a stage telling you that here's how you do X, Y, and Z.
Well, the first time I ever produced a show was the first show I ever attended. I'd never been to another show to gauge what anyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of time for us to do that, and that was cool. And now that I've attended shows, I really wouldn't mind getting involved with producing a show, because I kind of see what works and I kind of see what doesn't. And it's a bit like the strings. Some people hear it, some people don't, but it's there and you subconsciously hear it anyway. Not everybody always knows. It's like a request. People don't know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
They just ask for things. They don't know if they're going to dance or not. They just ask for things. I think it's kind of like that at shows sometimes. People, they'll take a survey and say, what would you like to see at the next show? And people just write this shit down, and show producers will say, oh, well, let's give them that. Well, no, give them something that is going to work. Just because they requested a song doesn't mean they're going to dance to it, or anyone else is going to dance to it. Even if 8 people request it, 8 people may not dance to it.
Yep.
You got to just kind of know how this stuff works. I feel like a really nice structure for something like this would be, I don't know, like let's say you had 2 major presenters a day. Let's say you did that. So maybe you had one at noon and you had one at 4 or 3 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they both went for 45 minutes to an hour. And the rest of that time you could spend being social or going to lunch with a friend or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just, the patio talk like we, or whatever. It's like at Mobile Beat. I mean, I remember the show floor went to 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there were like parties going on after that, like almost immediately after that. And a lot of these people wanted to go to dinner somewhere. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to eat in the food court. They wanted to go have a steak or something. And it's like, there's no time to do that without missing something. And there's so much stuff going on. Eventually you just throw your hands up and say, I don't care if I miss it or not. So you miss all kinds of stuff. It would almost be better if you weren't constantly being engaged. And there was it's almost like swag. Pioneer, Jay knows this, Pioneer doesn't bring 2,000 t-shirts to anything. They never have. They bring 50. It's exclusive. If you get one, it's special. Mm-hmm. And it's coveted. I think it would be the same way with presenters at a trade show. Instead of having none, opposed to, 8 a day back to back from noon to 8 o'clock at night, or from 10 in the morning until 6. Why not have 2, space them out, and allow some time in between there? I think that would be better. I don't know. What do I know? Yeah. The heck do I know, as they say.
Yeah.
In New York. They don't say heck, though. They say something else.
Yeah, they say something else. But
yeah.
And that actually, speaking, since Jay Brandon's in the chat room, he and I were having a conversation a little bit about what would a different DJ event look like, and he's got, of course, many ideas that are just really thinking. And I don't like to use this phrase, but really thinking outside of the box when it comes to getting DJs together to network and learn. And it was,
you would know. I mean, he's always on the road.
Yeah,
he goes. If a shop that sells DJ equipment, installs a new toilet, he's there.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
He goes.
Yeah, he's putting the 1000 on top of it and showing them how to mix on top of the toilet.
Small stores, big events, you name it, he's there, and they love him because Jay can riff. That's something that Jay can do. Jay, you got an hour to talk, no problem. What am I going to talk about?
Doesn't matter.
These cashews. Give us an hour on these cashews, and he'll do it. And they'll applaud him, and people say, "Oh my God, I saw Jay talking about cashews 2 years ago. It was amazing."
I never knew so much about cashews.
How long did it take him to write that? It's like he just did it because that's Jay. I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
I can't do what Jay does. Jay is really, really, really impressive with that stuff. But he would know. He would know what works and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And Jay and I talked at Mobile Beat. There are some things that him and I both agreed that we should be adjusting when we go to shows too. And a lot of it has to do with listening instead of just talking all the time.
Yes. And that's actually at this particular show, I spent more time asking questions of other folks and trying to get their thoughts. And the 2 areas, I wanted to try to remember names better and utilizing the name, people's names, except that Brandon guy from Pioneer. I keep forgetting who he is, but that's another story. But the name part of it, and then to be able to ask questions and to find out what people are enjoying, what's the experience like for them, how are and if we can progress, how are they doing in their business, and just trying to get those things, because I found that in the past when we've gone to the shows and we've talked too much, we don't get much out of these shows. we don't get to make those connections, and we don't, you leave and it's like, oh, I kind of messed that up. And then you end up kicking yourself for 2 weeks. But when you can go and ask the questions and listen and let people share it, because we're around some really talented and intelligent people in this industry.
Yeah. Well, what I did a long time ago, when it went from like, oh, I'm at a show and I want to see all this gear and I want to, once it was kind of like I was jaded about the show itself, I really was kind of, I don't need to sound bad, but it was almost like a personal appearance thing where I would go and yeah, you can talk to me. I'm just a guy, And whenever anybody would come up to me and say, oh my God, Brian, I watch your videos, I say thank you, and I smile and I listen because they have something to say. I've said enough in my videos. I say enough on the show. It's their turn to talk. If they have a question, I'll answer it. But yeah, this is time to just listen.
Yeah.
And once in a while, I'll get a bug in my head, and I'll be like, you got to listen to this because I got an idea. I'll bounce it off of people. I did it at Mobile Beat. I was really I've got this idea about a selfie booth that would just eliminate a lot of problems for us that we're having with photo booth and that.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't completely cultivated it. But I had an idea. And anybody who would listen, I made them shut up and listen to it, whether they want to hear it or not. Because I wanted to, but I try not to do that. Most of the time, I'm very politely just, thank you. And I really am listening and I'm soaking it in. And that's the good stuff. I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a great opportunity for me to get feedback for what I do too here for the videos. Because a lot of people will say specifically, I really like that video you did on whatever. And sometimes I think to myself, that one is the one that resonated with you?
Yep.
And okay, why? I said, well, no, it was just really cool because I didn't think a thing of it. I mean, it didn't get a lot of views compared to some of the other stuff, but that really resonated with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a pop song. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of songs on the radio where you're like, it's all right. I'm not going to turn the station, I guess. You're going to hear some songs that you don't like at all. And then in the old days, it used to be, oh my God, this is the best song ever. And maybe your neighbor would say, nah, I think it sucks. Like, no, this is good.
Yep.
Maybe that's how the videos are. Maybe they're more like old school pop songs where it's either great or it sucks. Opposed to just, I guess I'll just look at it.
Greater it sucks.
Well, that's how it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. Now it's kind of like everybody's kind of like, whatever. It sounds like the last song, so I guess I can't hate it too much. But in the old days, I mean, the music would polarize folks sometimes. I mean, there were things that really brought people together, but I don't know. There are songs that I really enjoyed that a lot of people just dismissed. And songs that people enjoy or bands they enjoy that I'm like, what are you talking about? like Guns N' Roses. I mean, there's always somebody at every show who wants to tell me about Guns N' Roses. I don't know why, but it happens. And I never liked them. Ever. I didn't like Welcome to the Jungle. And I didn't like anything. And I don't care about Slash. And I don't care about any of these guys. I just don't dig it.
Yep, they never wasn't a thing.
I'm just thinking about you.
Me?
Yeah, because you're a Huey Lewis guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that really resonated with you. I think you probably realized that most people aren't Huey Lewis the News fans.
And that I was
talking to a friend of mine about you. I don't know if I ever told you this. It was about a year ago. I was talking about my friend John and what a good guy is. I said, "This is the weirdest thing in the world." It's like, what? I said, his favorite band in the world is Huey Lewis and the News. I've never heard anybody say their favorite band in the world was Huey Lewis and the News. That's kind of like saying your favorite food is ketchup. It's just like everybody eats it, but it's like it's your favorite thing. Ketchup is your favorite thing? Really? Not the fries, but the ketchup? And he's like, oh no, my ex-wife's uncle was a huge Huey Lewis and the News fan. He was like a biker, and that was his thing. I'm like, really? I'd never heard of that before.
Quality.
I don't know if I ever told you that or not.
No, I don't think we've had that conversation.
Yeah,
I need
true
story.
story.
I need to find this uncle because obviously this is a person of definite high
You want to
standard.
meet this guy?
Yes, now I want to meet this
You and
person.
him and 5 other people can form a club.
We can form a club and we can have like membership and a handshake, and it'll be great.
No, my point being was the reason I mentioned Huey Lewis the News is because for some reason Heart and Soul has really been one of my top 10 songs. I love that track.
Mm-hmm.
The band itself, whatever, but that particular song, I really, really like it. And most people, if I mention that to them, they would say, yeah, so what? You know, that's the good stuff. I think when it really resonates with some and maybe misses others, that's better than stuff that everybody can kind of deal with, because stuff everybody can kind of deal with is boring. And I don't even remember why I was talking about that. Oh, the videos. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been working our way around on some topics and such. Oh.
I'm being quiet so you can like host, because I step all over you, and I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right. Quite all right.
Do it every
I was
week.
just
It's
checking,
terrible.
checking to see if there was anything.
By the time you get to me, I'm like jacked up on coffee, and I've been doing something all day. And my mother will tell you, man, when he's tired, get out of his way, because he won't shut up, and his filter goes away and everything else. I've always been like that.
It's that time of the day. We've already done 4 shows tonight. We did 5 last night. So, yeah, I'm getting to the point where it's, you get a little punch drunk behind the.
Well, I'm kind of your Tuesday night nightcap.
That's exactly what we were saying when Shani and I were talking about it here a little bit ago. Is that you were the bringing us down, especially when she got a little riled up during her.
Let's have a Brian before bed. It'll be good.
It'll be good, and send you off with some lovely.
You'll sleep better.
Yeah, I'll sleep.
That's what she said.
She would, yes. I think that's a good way to describe it, because she was talking about the hustle and getting in a person's face a little bit with that, so it was kind of fun.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, she gets excited. She's passionate about what she does.
She very much so.
You know, and we're all different. Mm-hmm. We all, I guess, react and respond differently to things, and that's a good thing. If we were all the same, it would be incredibly boring. Kind of like pop songs today.
And there was,
speaking of,
I was going to say that we should. I've been seeing a lot of that discussion, not only with some of the things you've been posting, but a lot of people lamenting as they're getting ready for the upcoming wedding season. Is there anything that's new, that's playable for our dance floor coming up here as we get into the early wedding season? I
think for me, it's less of a complaint and more of a, okay, did I miss something? Because I didn't see it. That's what I don't care. I mean, if there's nothing out there, there's nothing out there. It doesn't bother me. I've got, what a good 65 years of rock and roll to look at. Mm-hmm. So I don't really care if there's nothing new to listen to. I just want to be aware of something if there is, and seeing how it's not as interesting to me as it used to be. So I pay less attention to it. I look to others, and there are things. I was looking at the Mobile Beat Top 200.
Yeah.
Today or this morning. And the reason I was looking at it was because I was looking for songs with strings in them that were on the Mobile Beat Top 200, just out of curiosity. And there were a few songs in there that I was like, oh, they're playing this, huh? This is a song from the last few years. and I didn't even know anybody was playing it. Mm-hmm. I've gotten away with my gigs without playing it. But there are people who are playing it. Well, maybe I should look at those songs closer, because I'm not playing them. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I think we've seen the golden age of it, and that's okay.
I think it's to a point. If we get through a calendar year of the last few years, and if we can have 3 songs that we can play at a wedding, we're doing pretty well almost. I feel.
Yeah, because it's the industry. I mean,
yeah.
Did we have the conversation about the Masked Singer?
No, I think when did you mention that it was really lame?
I didn't say it was lame.
Okay, so no, then we have not.
I said the opposite.
Okay.
And I didn't watch the show. but Blanca put on the finale. I mean, why worry about weeks and weeks of stuff? But we heard the buzz, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So Blanca's like, let's just check it out. It's the finale. Let's check it out. And they had 3 finalists. And let's see, I'm trying to think. One was a bumblebee. It was a petite woman with a voice of gold. Sounded amazing. Every song she sang sounded great, and people loved her. And some people had figured out who she was. There was a guy who was a lizard, and he was a real showman. You know, he really knew how to perform on stage, and he had a great voice and understood how to control a crowd. And they're in these ridiculous costumes, like Chuck E. Cheese stuff. You know,
these big
where you can't, or Mickey Mouse at Disneyland, you can't tell who they are. And whenever they speak, they disguise their voices, like, you know, if they're in the Witness Protection Program or something. And then there was another guy who was a monster. He just looked like a Pac-Man ghost or something. I don't know what he was. They call him the Monster. And this guy had an incredibly soulful voice, and yeah, I mean, people were just going crazy. They could not figure out who this guy was. So anyway, they let the audience choose. And under the bumblebee mask, it was Gladys Knight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like, holy shit. And then the lizard was the second runner-up. It was Donny Osmond. And the winner of the whole thing was T-Pain. Yeah.
Really?
Right. And it was so cool because what he said was, look, I came on this show. The only reason I came on the show is because I wanted everyone to know that I actually can sing.
Wow.
It's not me who's saying auto-tune and all. That's not me. That's producers. That's the record label. I actually am a singer, and I wanted you to hear my voice.
Wow.
It was so cool.
That would have been
The
cool.
guy has an amazing voice. And I mean, like I said, I wasn't invested in the show or anything, but I thought that was brilliant. And it made me kind of have hope. It's not like there's no talent out there. It's that the industry isn't letting that talent shine. And that's, I mean, T-Pain. I mean, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. We would have.
This guy has a voice that would just kill you. It's gorgeous. It's classic. It's big. And you can't even hear the guy over auto-tune.
Yeah.
And impression and stuff on the hits. But that's not him doing it. So, yeah, he's actually talented. Who knew?
Yeah, that is.
I think we all assume it's always Cardi B over and over and over again. You know, or in the old days, what was it, Linda McCartney, you know, who can't sing but lip syncs everything. We assume that because of all the stuff, but that's not always the case. So, that was interesting.
Yeah,
for what that's worth.
Yeah.
So it's out there. It's just for some reason, and I guess maybe part of it has to do with money, and part of it has to do with, well, most of it has to do with money, but
Yeah.
It's the business. It's the business of it. It's just not what it used to be, but that's okay. It might come back. It might not. But at any rate, we got some amazing music for 65 some odd years that we can go back and listen to.
And I think there's still good music being created and produced and such, and it's being released. It's just, it isn't going through the main distribution channels that are in essence aimed to be more of a pop culture type thing. I mean, you hear some artists and such, but now they're, little indie groups here or there that can do some incredible things, but they're just not going to have enough airplay or enough recognition to be.
The whole structure's off.
Yeah.
George Michael did an interview, before he died. I don't know how long ago it was. And he had some great material that nobody really heard in the 2000s. But I think they asked him, what advice do you have for the next big star out there? The next you.
Yeah.
And he said, look, there's never going to be another me, and I'm not trying to be arrogant about it. It's just that the business is so incredibly formulated and homogenized now that it doesn't allow space for a guy like me anymore. Or Prince or Madonna or Michael Jackson or anybody like that. It just doesn't work that way anymore. So there's never going to be another me. And right now, I don't think there's going to be. It's got to come back and be novel first, because now it's just boring and annoying and nobody cares. And no, it is. I mean, now they're watching TV. People are really involved in politics. This is what they talk about on social media. They don't really go to clubs anymore. They don't go dancing. They're not social. And the other thing is with the internet, well, we're global now. And that's pretty cool. I mean, that I can talk to you almost in Canada. Not quite, I know, but close. And there's people in the chat room from all over the world, all over the United States. They're checking us out. They're going to watch this broadcast recorded too. That's amazing. The problem is there's no such thing as regional anymore. So, and we've talked about this before. I mean, the closest city to you is probably Minneapolis, St. Paul, right?
Of major, yeah.
Major. Dude, that was the scene in the 80s. Holy crap. The music that came out of those cities and that region in the 1980s changed the world. And it wasn't even, it was like Motown, but cooler, in my opinion. Up there with Prince and Flight Time and even like Information Society, you know, just all this cool stuff was coming out of Minneapolis. There's nothing in Minneapolis out of my knowledge. And there's definitely not a scene there.
No, not much of anything. Yeah, it's really, really changed.
The last time I was ever aware of a scene anywhere, and maybe I'm just out of touch, but it was probably 20 plus years ago, and it was Memphis with blues and Beale Street. I mean, that was kind of a scene, you know, that was local stuff. But yeah, it's cool when something builds in a region and gets big and then spreads out, like house music in Chicago, you know, or Prince in Minneapolis, or Berry Gordy in Motown in Detroit, or, you know, metal and hard rock in Hollywood, California. But now it doesn't work that way. It's got to start somewhere, and then it has to be global immediately, or it goes away, or nobody cares. It doesn't have time to be, you know, nurtured.
No, not a bit.
Like it used to. And yeah, okay, yeah, you've got internet now, so you can take your music and you can share it with the world immediately, and that's an amazing thing. However, everyone else is doing it too, and there's too much information. Your stuff just gets lost.
Yeah.
It's just it's a, you know, a grain of sand on the beach, unfortunately.
And there's a lot of sand on that beach right now as you watch artists releasing music either on SoundCloud or on YouTube, because I bet we get a half a dozen different artists that are messaging the Disc Jockey News and saying, hey, check out this, check out that. And some of these are younger people who are just trying to break in and trying to get their videos. Or you get the publicity companies who are sending emails saying, we got this new hot artist that you should check out. Yeah, right. Okay, great. I'll get right on that.
Well, you know, and the problem is that everybody says that and you get so jaded and you just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You might be missing something incredible.
I could be.
But no one has time to do that. I don't have time to go through all my promo-only shit every month. I mean, who does?
Yeah.
There's hundreds of songs that come in. Nobody can go through all those songs.
Exactly.
It's too much. It would almost be cooler if it was back to the old days where a guy like Nick Hahn would say, okay, here are the 20 hits you need to worry about right now. And here you go.
Yeah.
And instead of me having to sort through, you know, it's like I'm rummaging for music. That's what it feels like. I'm rummaging for something good. There's too many things in the cupboard. All I want is a can of sardines, and it's way in the back behind everything else. But I got to go through all this other crap to get to it, and I don't even care. I'll just go get a burger.
Yeah. I'll leave this.
I don't know.
Screw the sardines. I'm gonna get a burger. Oh, well, Brian, let's wrap things up here.
I'll shut up.
We are up here to 10 o'clock tonight Central. So thank you guys for being with us tonight. Tomorrow night we will be back again with starting at 8 o'clock Eastern. We're going to have shows from 8 until 10 o'clock, 10:30 tomorrow night. So I believe it's until 10:30. So you can find all the links for the shows this week out at djntv.com/DJEDU. That will give you the links for the shows. And we'll see you tomorrow.
This is a very Seinfeld Disc Jockey News broadcast, by the way.
It is. It's pretty much
nothing,
all over. Yeah, it was really about nothing, and it was all over the place. And when you're done with it, you're going to be like, where did the last hour of my life go?
I don't even know what we did. I have to watch it because I don't know what I said.
You guys have yourself a good evening. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.